I was around the age of 7 years old, and I was playing in my cousin's backyard when a man started to talk to me from the other side of the fence. He told me that he was one of my cousins, which I immediately knew that wasn't true. He told me I should come with him and that he wants to have a lot of fun with me and that he loves me. I ran back into my cousin's house and told my mom and aunt what had just happened. They both looked out the window so they could see this guy, but he was already gone. I then described what the man looked like to them, and they told me that I never had a cousin that looked like him. I think they thought I made it up because now when I asked them about it, they don't believe me. It's so creepy thinking about a grown man who I didn't even know told a 7-year-old me that he loves me. I can only imagine what he meant. For context, I'm a 17-year-old female. I was born and raised in Canada with a pretty sheltered life as my mother is very overprotective, so I'm in no way naive or unaware of how to deal with a threat. For the summer, I am visiting my godmother in Italy. This is my first time leaving Canada. Since she works during the weekdays, I travel about on my own around Italy. For this story, I took a ferry to Ischia, a small island in Napoli, to tour around. When I first arrived on the island, I made the plan to head to a small scenic park not too far from the port so I could plan my day. It was around 3 p.m. when I was at the park. Now the park itself made its way into a semi-forest area. The pathways were covered by trees and bushes alike, so it's easy to get lost in there, at least for me. It was also pretty desolate at the time and gone for the public eye. I was sitting on the bench next to a playground for children decked out with swings and slides. There was a family a little away from me playing at the playground. The playground was sized in a little circle-like clearing in the park. On opposite sides of the clearing are the pathways that take you around the park. The paths have trees, making a tunnel-like path so it could be hard to see down it unless you are directly in front of it. From where I was sitting on the bench, which was also near the north pathway, I could directly see down the south pathway. Now I was sitting at this bench for a while, mind you, as Italy is pretty hot. I'm not used to the heat. My head was down looking at my phone, so I wasn't exactly paying attention to the outside world, but I would look up periodically to watch the family play. It was around now 4 p.m., which is nearing when I had to leave to catch my ferry back. As I was about to pack up, I look up from my phone to see a guy standing in the path across from me. Now I wear glasses. My eyesight isn't that good, so I couldn't really make out what this guy was standing there for at first glance. I also didn't want to be known that I had my eyes on him, so I would try to get a better look from my peripherals. After a minute of watching this guy and trying to figure out why he was staring at me, I come to a horrifying conclusion. To put it lightly, this guy was off in public while watching me. It was light out, and a little fucking family was not even 10 feet away from me. This was the first time I've ever experienced anything like this, so I was scared shitless. Let me make myself clear. I look like a teenager. I have acne and a baby's face, so it is very clear I am underage. As I was sitting there panicking about what to do, I see this guy move side to side on the path to get a better look at me. The creep looked unassuming, with gray basketball shorts, a black graphic tee, and a balding head. From what I could tell, he was around his early 30s. I don't speak much Italian, and with how frazzled I was from this all, I cannot utter a cohesive sentence. After sitting on the bench for another minute trying to calm down and think clearly, I pull out my translator app and type in a message to translate to Italian. Now, to not alert this creep that I knew what he was doing, I stood up casually and began to make my way to the mother of the family, who was with their young baby at the time. The father and the toddler, I believe, were gone, playing off a little farther in the trees as I could not see them. While shaking with nerves, I approached the mother and held up my phone with the message on it without a word. Now, from where the mother was, you could not see down the path, so she was none the wiser about what was happening. Roughly, my translated message went along the line of, "Hello, sorry, I do not speak much Italian, but I am in need of help. There is a creepy guy in the path over there watching me, and I'm scared." Now, I know I probably should have made my situation more clear in the message, but I was freaking out, and I didn't know how well my English would translate into Italian, so I kept it short. After the mother read the message, she got a concerned look on her face and asked me to show her where this guy was. Now, we walked like 5 feet over to where the path begins. The guy was gone. I assume he saw me walking towards the mother. Thankfully, I came to find out the mother speaks a little English, so I was able to communicate roughly what the creep was doing. Since she was with the baby, I didn't want her to go after the creep, but she was mad enough to attempt. Eventually, she told me her husband will be back soon, and he spoke more fluently. Once he came back, I really explained what happened and asked if I could follow them out of the park to a public area so I'd not be left alone and vulnerable. While they were packing up their belongings, I called my godmother and gave her a brief rundown of the situation and that I'll be making my way back to the ferry. Now, I would love to say this is where my tale ends without any more troubles, but sadly, that was not how it went. After me and the family left the playground area, we made our way to the opposite path from where the creek was to where I assumed was the exit to the park and to the main road. While walking, the mother tried to comfort me, assuring the guy wouldn't follow me as he left as soon as he got a clue that I caught on. I thought differently, as I could see the guy very clear from where I was sitting. It was not subtle about his staring. After walking a bit more throughout the path to the exit, I spotted a familiar looking man walking back to the playground. Once I made eye contact with him, I immediately knew it was the creep from before, walking casually like nothing was wrong. Once he spotted me walking with the family, he quickly made a turn onto a path that diverged from the main one. This creep was circling back to find me, assuming that I stayed at the playground or was walking alone to the exit. I leaned over to the mother and quickly told her that it was the same guy. Unfortunately, the path that the guy took to avoid us was the same one we needed to take to get to the exit. This dumb fucking creep cornered himself without making any way to leave except to pass by us. The father at that point had the baby in his arms and the toddler following closely behind him. The mother, in a rage, followed shortly after the creep, cussing him out in a mix of English, Italian, and Spanish. This creep walked sheepishly off with his head tucked, pretending he could not hear the lady yelling at him. Finally, after the angry mother stopped following the man, we made it to the exit of the park. I thanked them profusely and bid my friend well and make my way down to the port. That family saved me from a dangerous situation. I could not be more thankful for their comfort and protection. I often think about what could have happened if I left the park on my own, knowing this guy would have circled back for me. This happened a couple years ago now. I was in an extremely unhealthy relationship at the time, and after one of my partner's fits of rage, I went out for a night drive to clear my mind. I was 22 at the time, living in a small town of rural Alberta. Now, if you know anything about Alberta, you know that a lot of our residents are redneck types with huge jacked up trucks sporting massive aftermarket bumpers and headlights that could probably see clear to Mars. Now, I'm not a tiny girl. I grew up training in MMA, and I'm damn near 6 feet tall, but I drive a tiny silver sedan, so me and my tiny car made our way out to the local fishing pond. It's also a bit of a lover's lane, but it was pretty much deserted at this time aside from the other car in the parking lot. I pull in, hugging tight to the curb to put as much space as I can between myself and the other occupant of the lot. There's a chain guardrail type thing to the immediate right of my car, as well as in front of me, but I wanted to keep my splotchy face to myself while I texted my best friend about the fight I just had with my partner. As I was sitting in my car, doors locked and ignition off, I see a vehicle coming down the road. It's important to know that this parking lot is at the top of a T intersection, and there's not much to do in my hometown other than drive around aimlessly, so I didn't think much of it. That is until the vehicle pulled in behind and slightly to the left of me, blocking my vehicle in. I was still upset and borderline ready to end myself anyway, so although it freaked me out, I didn't do anything about it. I just stayed in my seat, doors locked, texting my friend. 20 minutes of this, what I could now tell was a massive truck with an iron cross bumper sitting behind me with its goddamn lights from hell shining into my car. They drove off. I paid no more thought to them. Once I felt calm enough to go back home, I started my car and went to put it in reverse. Remember how I said the lot I was in was at the top of a T intersection? Well, all of a sudden these lights come on just from up on the road behind me. I pull onto the shitty gravel road and start making my way back towards town, and the truck followed. I drove slowly and calmly, and they got so close behind me that they nearly clipped my car with their bumper, and they kept backing off and pulling in close again like a cat playing with a mouse. I completely ignored them and continued to drive normally until I made it to the turn into town where they decided to finally fuck off in the other direction. I've never felt that kind of fear before or since. Not really sure what was going on or what their intentions were. Don't really care either.